Namaste and welcome to the Bharatvaarta Weekly. We bring you the news and events from the week that was. I'm Roshan Karyappa. I have with me Abhishek Paul and Nirav Kanodra here. Hey Abhishek, hey Nirav. It's been a while. This is our first weekly for the year. How are you guys feeling?
Hey,
Yeah, great,
Carrie.
great.
You're doing good.
Awesome, awesome. I hope the year is off to a good start. We have plenty to discuss today. The NPCI has opened up UPI for NRIs. CBI has filed a case against the former Finance Secretary, Mr. Mayaram. The inflation numbers are at a record low of 5.72%, and this again overlapped with the IIP, which has increased, is very interesting from an economy perspective. There was also news of a bombing strike near the India Myanmar border. And in the world of sports, India is hosting the Hockey World Cup. And in some entertainment news, Natu Natu of RRR has won the Golden Globes for the best song. All of this and more on this weekly. If you are a new visitor, Bharatvaarta publishes episodes on politics, policy, and culture. We put out 2 or 3 episodes every week. Do subscribe to us if you want more content like that. And if you're a returning visitor and you like our content, don't forget to rate and review us. It'll help more people discover our content. All right, last week we put out this very interesting episode with the Brihat folks, Pankaj and Raghav, on reviving civilizational ethos and culture and so on, right? And why that is important from a political perspective as well. Abhishek, Nirav, did you guys catch that episode?
I haven't caught the episode, but I have been following the Brahat guys on Twitter and Instagram. So I think that's the next thing that I have to listen. It should be very interesting, very topical, and I think they're doing great work. So kudos to Bharat Varta for hosting them as well.
Yeah, so I have caught it like partially. I've yet to listen to it fully. But yeah, as Nirav said, they're doing some very interesting work. And the conversation, the start of it, what I heard was definitely very interesting. So would recommend the listeners and viewers to check it out.
Yeah, I think they're doing some amazing work across different spheres, right? And there's this whole argument of politics being downstream from culture and whatnot, right? But for me, I think this capture of the aesthetics is really important, and I think that is where, on the dharmic side, we have kind of lagged, right? I mean, with this whole modernity equal to Westernism sort of a trope, we have lagged severely, and I think we have 40-50 years is baggage to sort of make up. And initiatives like Brihat are really something in the positive direction in that sense, right? And if you haven't seen the episode, do definitely check it out. It's available on all platforms, and let us know if there are other similar folks who are doing such similar endeavors as well. We'd love to host them on the podcast. All right, with that out of the way, let's begin with our first piece of news for the week. NPCI has issued new guidelines allowing NRIs in 10 countries to access UPI services using their international mobile numbers. These will be for bank accounts which are classified as non-resident external (NRE) or non-resident ordinary or NRO. Member banks will need to ensure the UPI account is only allowed as per the extent, FEMA regulations, and adherence to the guidelines instructions issued by the concerned regulatory departments of RBI from time to time. Nirav, this is amazing, right? I mean, now the NRIs can avail the convenience of UPI.
Yeah, yeah. So people have like assumed a lot more than what has actually happened. This is like the first step. So basically, this does not allow. So just to clarify, this does not allow UPI to be linked to your foreign bank account in whichever country that you're living in, right? This allows the account which you have in India with a bank in India, which is a non-resident account, and that connected to UPI. So I think it's always been difficult for me, and I always carry a lot more cash when I visit, being an NRI whenever I go out, because either if I use my foreign credit card, it charges me a lot. I can use a debit card, I keep forgetting the pin. And all the payments which are made, what all my friends in India are making through all these payment apps or UPI, that is now allowed on my foreign Singapore mobile number, right? So that makes it very convenient, I think. But this is like a step. This is a great step. This allows a lot of things. Whenever NRIs visit India, they can make these payments, as well as a lot of people are availing of online services from India. Could be like guitar coaching classes, yoga classes, language classes, etc. There's some online tutoring, which all these things are picked up in the pandemic, a lot of it, right? For like NRI kids with like learning from people in India. And there these payments can be made via UPI linking to their phone as well, right? So This kind of reduces the friction in this part. But think about what are the next steps. So the next steps is when Indians visit overseas, can they use their local bank account instead of like a credit card to pay for goods and services overseas? Can people use their foreign bank accounts and come to India, and when they spend, can they link it? Right now, what is there is you can use international credit cards, but those, a, like they charge a lot of conversion fee. B, they charge merchants for a fee. All the credit card providers, they do a fantastic job because it's seamless. But like look at Visa or Mastercard or American Express, they charge on both sides, right? What UPI is doing is it is eliminating this friction. These payment providers are basically creating a ledger entry and debiting one account, crediting another account, and for that they're charging quite a bit. UPI has kind of reduced this friction massively, and I think this goes a long way in further digital payments. So it's a very big positive. It's a positive. It's just one step, though. It's the first step, first of many, and I welcome it totally. So basically, that way I have to carry less cash or withdraw less cash from ATM, and less of a hassle for me personally. So I'm a direct beneficiary, and I think this is Indian payment processes could go like way further ahead, and we can hopefully facilitate foreigners visiting India or like Indians visiting abroad, and facilitate that too as well in the future.
No, I think UPI internationalizing is that next level of growth on this digital platform front, right? And I think there's no reason why India should not do that. So yeah, fantastic first step from NPCI regarding this. In other news, CBI, or the Central Bureau of Investigation, has filed a first information report against former Finance Secretary Arvind Mayaram for alleged irregularities in a currency printing case. The CBI alleged that Mayaram in 2013 had given an illegal extension to UK based firm De La Rue International for supplying exclusive color shift security thread for Indian banknotes for a period of 5 years. It is alleged that the undue favor Mayaram provided to the British firm resulted in it making wrongful gains at a loss to the Indian exchequer. Abhishek, this is something that happened about 8 or 9 years back. What do you think is the significance of this?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the immediate political talking points is that the FIR follows very closely on the heels of Mr. Mayaram joining the Bharat Jodo Yatra of Rahul Gandhi. Well, it's quite well known that he is close to the Congress party, so that was not really a big secret. He's also officially like the economic advisor of the Ashok Gehlot government in Rajasthan, right? So that's like the political significance. So, the opposition can always claim that the government is once again targeting an opposition linked person, right? So as to speak. Coming to this FIR and the whole thing related to Delaru, actually the story here goes back to at least 2004. So what happened is, so as you said, one of the this is about one of the security features that are there in the Indian currency note, right? It's like called a color shifting thread or something around those lines. Now, this UK based company had been given an exclusive contract way back in 2004, and the process had even started in 2002 to identify such a firm. Now, what happened is a year or two later, it was discovered by RBI that the sort of submissions made by this firm, uh, that they had a patent for this feature, they actually did not have that patent at that time. So that was the prima facie allegation that this company which has received this exclusivity contract via RBI did not actually have the patent. They actually got the patent quite a few years later, right? And so what has happened is Mr. Mayaram is sort of alleged to have sort of hidden these facts from the finance minister when they were sort of brought up by the RBI, and also is alleged to have helped in getting this firm a number of extensions, at least four extensions till 2014 or 2015, around that period. So that is the prima facie allegation that this UK-based firm Delarue was, not exactly a qualified or perfectly qualified vendor, and also that not all the facts of this were being brought up to the finance ministry, or later when you need extensions, you need the home ministry sort of clearance and things like that. So there were irregularities in providing the extensions to this firm, which were facilitated allegedly by Mr. Mayaram. So that is basically the allegation. There's also some allegation, some other people in the Reserve Bank, finance ministries, and so on and so forth, of having some monetary benefits received in related to these extensions and transactions. So basically that is the case, and so let's see how this investigation goes forward.
So do you think the currency notes could have potentially been tampered with? I mean, if the firm did not have the IP and it was let's say allegedly fraudulently done, do you think there is some significance on that front?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there will be this sort of theory that many people will have, that, we know that pre demonetization there had been a sort of quite a big buildup of fake currency in India, right? And so now there could be a theory that, with was there some linkage to that with the RBI and the finance ministry of that time giving contracts to unqualified or vendors who were not up to the standard and so on. Like how much was it deliberate? How much is there any linkage? Was there any malintent? Or was this purely a sort of a financial give and take behind it? Those are like, we are well quite a way away from able to concretely say anything on those subjects. For now, I think the FIR is like for a much more limited scope, right, which talks about extensions or benefits being given to this particular UK firm in an inappropriate manner.
All right, moving on the economy front, India's annual retail inflation in December edged down from the previous month and remained within the central bank's comfort zone, government data showed on Thursday. The annual retail inflation declined to 5.72% in December from 5.88% in the previous month. The latest inflation print was below the RBI's upper tolerance level of the 2 to 6% range for the second consecutive month. Meanwhile, the index of industrial production, or the IIP, jumped 7.1% in November as against 4% in October, according to government data. Nirav, this is very promising news on the economy front, right? And especially given what's happening in the macroeconomy globally.
So yeah, I think there are a few things. So one is like a lot of kudos to RBI for maintaining its cool and not following the West blindly. So one is during the pandemic, RBI said that we will focus on growth. We are okay with higher inflation. So we saw inflation number about like reaching 7% plus 7.8 in April last year, in April 2022. Then it's kind of gradually come down, and like it's slowly the it has come down slowly. There's been a lot of criticism against it, but at that time, what the RBI had to focus on was trying to get back the Indian economy back on growth track, and they have gradually increased interest rates from 4% repo rate to 6.25. Maybe they hike one more time or no, let's see, right? They've been very prudent. Now just compare this to the US, where they did unprecedented monetary stimulus, unprecedented fiscal stimulus, and you had rates at zero. Now they are at 4.5. You had inflation which went up to 9% in the US, and now inflation there has come down to 6.5, right? So in a globally linked economy with goods being traded across borders, etc., inflation is a global problem. So there's only limited tools that any country has. So here India has to suffer from inflation if global oil prices rise, right? So you had the Russia Ukraine war, you had a lot of money being printed around the globe, which raises demand for goods everywhere. So that makes goods pricier in India as well. But I think through the whole thing, by not giving too much stimulus, by government not spending money like crazy or giving blank checks, India had made those errors after the global financial crisis, where a very big Narega plan was implemented, where a lot more money was given out compared to what are the demand for labor, right? So India has done quite well, and now we are seeing all these shoots come out. I think the industrial production numbers, yes, it's a noisy series, but I don't give too much weightage to it because it only captures one part. The Indian economy is moved way too ahead. It's very much more services dependent, as well as all the new manufacturing is not captured in it. So that's my gripe with it. But sequentially, any number rising is a good thing. Maybe whether it is capturing the whole slice of the economy or only small slice of the economy, that's a different thing. But inflation is coming down. I think everything is reasonably good. They are being prudent. And my best economic indicator, we will get it on 1st of February, is monthly GST collections. We are going to have the budget then as well. And I think GST collections at about 1.5 lakh crore a month. It's been a steady run rate. Some people say, oh no, that means nominal growth is just flat, inflation is too high. Now inflation is coming off. So that means the real growth is increasing, right? So all these things are all positive signs. And I really think compared to the large Western economies, compared to our large neighbor on the east, China, India has done a very good job. For like a, you would call India like a lower middle income country with India's resources. I think India's done a phenomenal job. Right from vaccination, and you're going to have this whole talk with Ashish, but like right from there to managing the economy, I think what they've done is been very quiet, sensible, and gone about doing their jobs instead of tom-tomming too many things, right? And it is showing up in the data slowly. I think this series slowly goes closer to the midpoint of 4 to 5% soon. So that is where we are comfortable in our economy. We've not had this sudden sharp rise in interest rates or the bigger jerks. Whenever they hit these big shocks, they hurt consumers and businesses quite hard, right? And India has approached a more gradual approach, both sides, right? While easing as well, we cut in smaller steps. While hiking, we hiked in smaller steps, and I think they've managed it quite well.
Yeah, I think if you look back to 2020 or so, the amount of pressure that there was for some kind of fiscal stimulus, right, just to hand people money, like how the Western countries were doing, the way we resisted all of that, I think, on hindsight, has really helped us, right, Nirav?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think Indian policymakers, they decided what is best for India at this point in time. We did not blindly ape anyone else, and we are seeing that play out quite well. So it is good that I'm not saying anything was perfect, but no one else was either, right? Obviously, but we've always been receptive to feedback and slowly and steadily kind of progressed well. So it's quite a positive thing.
Yeah. I think what we don't have is what the West is seeing, which is both the supply side constraint and the demand side, right? I mean, excess notes in the market, and plus, I mean, supply side with the whole war and everything of that sort, right? So, yeah. Well, moving on, Myanmar's military bombing of a key rebel camp on the border with Mizoram on Tuesday has led to fear and panic in the areas of the state. At least one shell fell on the Indian side. There was no casualty, but a truck on a riverbank close to the border was damaged, according to a Champai district official. The Myanmar military launched airstrikes on Camp Victoria in Chin State late Tuesday afternoon. Camp Victoria is the headquarters of the Chin National Army, or the CNA, an ethnic armed organization in Chin State. Abhishek, any cause for alarm, or just something that probably got out of hand, in an unplanned manner?
Yeah, so I don't know if it you can call it an unplanned incursion or anything like that. The fact is that some of the opponents of the current Myanmar military government are also armed rebels themselves, right? And so the Myanmar government was targeting this particular camp in the Chin state. This place, as you said, is called Camp Victoria, and it's the headquarters of the Chin National Army, which is one of the so-called pro-democracy forces in Myanmar, but they're also sort of an armed resistance, right? And so this place is very close to the border with Mizoram. And so there are conflicting reports about whether some of the airstrikes used Indian airspace and also whether some of the shelling landed on the Indian side of the border. I think there's been no official confirmation of this by the Indian side. I think India typically would like to downplay any of this because the idea is probably not to aggravate relations with Myanmar. And in the past, Myanmar has also helped out the Indian government in allowing the Indian armed forces to conduct strikes, which might even be going into the Myanmar territory while targeting northeast insurgents, right? So it's a bit of a like a give and take that happens between India and Myanmar. I think the bigger noise about it was raised in the British media, right? Especially the Guardian, which was the one to report that the Myanmaris entered into India, or like some of the shelling landed into India from these airstrikes. And based on that, there were like human rights groups who urged the sort of Indian government to not allow the Myanmar military to sort of use Indian airspace space to target these rebels or whatever you want to call them. I think we have to recognize the fact that these are disturbed areas, and there is obviously some sympathy for the people in these areas who are fighting the Myanmar government among the people in our border states. I think about 40,000 people have sort of shifted from Myanmar into India over the last some period of time, basically fleeing the Myanmar government and its actions. But India typically chooses to be very sort of non-vocal about anything that happens in Myanmar, including sort of abstaining in the United Nations, right? And it's based on a strategic calculation that, we have enough sort of troubles on our eastern borders, and we don't want one more adversarial relationship there, right, with Myanmar. And so basically, India prefers to let Myanmar deal with whatever is happening within its boundaries to itself. We faced some sort of issues in the past, including the Rohingya issue, right, which is like oftentimes a sort of contentious political issue within India. But even then, I think the overall Indian government's response to Myanmar, and this is across governments, right? It's like whether it's Congress or BJP, we have always tended not comment on anything that is happening within Myanmar, right? And not interfere in their internal affairs. And so that policy is not likely to change anytime, I think. Whether a bit of this shelling landed on India's side or not, India will, I don't think, comment on it publicly. They'll probably let Myanmar know of its concerns, but not, publicly comment on it, so that the issue does not get, blown out of proportion.
Well, in more positive news, the FIH Men's Hockey World Cup 2023 is being held in the Indian state of Odisha. And it started yesterday, 13 January, and it's scheduled to go until 29th January. The matches will be at two stadiums, Kalinga Stadium in Bhubaneswar and Birsa Munda Stadium at Rourkela. India began their Hockey World Cup campaign with a dominating 2-0 win versus Spain at the Birsa Munda Hockey Stadium on Friday. Nirav, this is pretty exciting. I saw a full page ad in the newspaper, but there was also some chatter on Twitter, etc. I think particularly Viren Raskina, the former Indian captain, had said there should definitely be more news and attention given to this, right? So, what do you make of this?
Yeah. Oh no. So absolutely. So first thing, Indian hockey has gone on like great leaps and bounds in the recent years, right? So we've got the bronze medal in the Olympics, and we won the silver medal in the Commonwealth Games. Both were won by Australia, right? This is the World Cup held in India. India's current ranking is big world number 6, but now India really needs to win it, having the home advantage, right? So that's a very big positive step. Two is, I agree with Viren Raskina. See, what happens is all sports, they make money if more people watch it and via advertising, right? And if people are watching, like there's only a limited attention span. If and a lot of sports, actually sports leagues are marketing successes. So if people are watching English Premier League or Spanish League in football or like Formula One, etc., their attention is diverted there. The advertising money, which is from their attention, is actually going to those sports. So if this can be captured within India, this money would pour back into Indian hockey with better training, better facilities, more people take up sports. I am also like to be blamed, but India is a sports watching nation, not a sports playing nation. And some successes in all these other sports. I think cricket takes like the big chunk of our mind space. Badminton has made a great job. Kudos to Gopi Chand. But India started winning in badminton. People start talking and watching badminton. I think same thing I feel and I hope that this Hockey World Cup does. Indian cricket wasn't that popular till the 1983 World Cup win. If this World Cup win does happen in India and is seen by everyone, that can hopefully change the fortunes of Indian hockey. We can have like a similar hockey league in India. So I think that is very important. About the World Cup, 16 teams are playing. There are four groups of four each. India is in a tough group. So it's India, England, Wales, and Spain. England beat Wales in the other group match 5-0. And the favorites for winning the World Cup is Australia. They won their game 8-0 versus France. They are in Group A. The top team from each group will qualify directly to the quarterfinals, whereas team number 2 and 3 will have to go through like a playoff format. Then they go to the quarterfinals, and then four quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. It is available for streaming, I think, on Disney Hotstar in India. There is Olympic.hockey app as well, where I am following it on outside India. So I would really recommend. I think it is all India games are, I think, 7 p.m. Sunday we've got the India England game. So I would like strongly recommend all Indians to go watch it, cheer the Indian team, get to know our players better. Hockey is also a very entertaining sport, which I've realized only later in life. That it's a very fast paced game. 4 quarters of 15 minutes only. And while I think like because the ball is small and a lot of players are running around, sometimes it is difficult to follow. But I think that is the same thing which probably what cricket had in the 70s, with not a lot of money in the game, not that many camera angles. And now it's getting better and better, right? So if more people are aware about this Hockey World Cup, more people go on and cheer India. I think the Odisha government has spent a lot of money on hockey. This whole World Cup is being held in Odisha. The Birsa Munda Stadium at Rourkela is a new stadium. The Kalinga Stadium was already there. So, anyways, I hope that India does win this World Cup. We've got Asian Games in Hangzhou in China in September. There we should be the favorites to win the Asian Games. And then we've got the Paris Olympics in 2024 next year, right? I hope all of these culminate in victories, gold medals, and anything less than a gold medal, I'll be like a little bit disappointed, let's say. I'm hoping for the best. I'm being realistic that yes, India is kind of ranked sixth in the world, but we have a home ground advantage. So hopefully we punch above our weight and we win the World Cup, prove those rankings wrong. And and this whole tournament can be very entertaining, right? It starts on 13th of January, ends on 29th January. It doesn't take up a whole day like a one-day international World Cup, right? You can watch it at 7 p.m. After your work day is done. You can watch it on streaming sites. You can watch it while on your phone on your commute. So yeah, please, I think would encourage more listeners of Bharatvaarta. Hockey is our national game. It is our old heritage where we've got 8 Olympic gold medals. And I think it's time to add to that tally, right? And India has won the first Hockey World Cup in 1975 and never won it again. Time to change that as well. And Pakistan has won it 4 times, but unfortunately they did not qualify in the top 16 this time, right? So that is there. Keeping fingers crossed and wishing India their second World Cup win in hockey.
Awesome. So you heard that very passionate plea from Nirav. Go watch the Hockey World Cup. Maybe catch a few minutes at least. Well, speaking of winning, the song Natu Natu from the wildly popular Telugu film RRR made history at the 80th Golden Globes as it became the first Indian song to win the Best Original Song award. Some of the other nominees in the category were Rihanna's Lift Me Up from Marvel's Black Panther, Taylor Swift's Carolina from Where the Crawdads Sing, and Lady Gaga's Hold My Hand from Top Gun Maverick. The Golden Globes also boost the chances of a film potentially receiving an Oscar later on. Abhishek, what do you make of this? It is a catchy song for sure, and of course a super entertaining movie.
Yeah, like very happy for the team of RRR and especially the music director Shakira Wani. It's a bit underrated by us Indians in general, right? Like he's not quite talked about in the same way as someone like an A.R. Rahman, but and so it often takes something like this, right, where he's now much more prominently recognized. So yeah, I think a great recognition for him. What I have found more interesting is the whole way in which RRR has become like a craze in the West, especially the United States. So I was just telling someone that there were these scenes of people coming up to the stage near the screen and dancing, right? In the United States, watching this movie, especially for this song. And so I was saying that finally, folks there are realizing what happens to a regular Rajnikant or a Salman Khan movie in India, right? Especially, the pre-multiplex days, right? It used to be a pretty common thing. I think our urban centers have become quite sanitized now, right? And sort
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
behave.
I mean, I know people throwing coins at the screen and stuff, right?
So I would say at least in the metros, I think things are a lot more sanitized now, especially with the multiplex culture. But those of us who have been to the old single screens will know, right? And that is exactly how some of the scenes are these days in the United States. So I was listening to a few interviews of Rajamouli, right? And he's now, doing the rounds of the really top late night talk shows, etc., right? And so apart from getting recognized by a lot of critics in the West, right? And winning critics awards, which is a bit strange in the sense that within India, I think most of the critics at least did not really rate RRR that well. So, he was talking about this phenomenon of getting recognized in the West, and he said initially he thought it was just, Telugu people or maybe Indians in general in the US who really were liking it. Then he thought maybe these people got their friends to go out and see the movie in large numbers. But finally, in about 2-3 weeks, he realized no, it is the common cinema going overall public in the US which is enjoying it so much. So I was reading a lot of comments in YouTube, etc., as to what really clicked for the Western audience, right? And I feel it's like this movie is so sort of sincere and earnest in whatever it is doing. And the over the top stuff is not done with a nudge nudge wink wink sort of fashion which you see in these Marvel DC sort of, or let's say a Fast and Furious franchise movie, right, where there is a sort of lack of earnestness or sincerity from their side. And so it's become like this unique thing for the Western audience, right, where they have for the first time getting exposed to this kind of cinema from India. And so, yeah, I think it's good if this sort of that more Indian movies are seen by foreign audiences, the better it is. Yeah.
Yeah, just want to add the Natu Natu song is shot out in Ukraine, actually, outside the palace. And yes, actually, this is a great thing. See, India makes a lot of movies. So, one is not just Bollywood, but South Indian movies in all four states have their own distinct movies, and their culture is kind of represented that way, right? And with easy streaming, easy access, and subtitles or easy dubbing, we've got a great history and like a big database of like Indian movies, right? And we open it opens up the whole Western world to us. I think this is a great opportunity, opens up doors for like a lot more movie makers to make movies which will be appreciated by an international audience. And it's a export opportunity as well as export our culture and as well, right? So really glad for them.
No, I think, Abhishek hit the nail on the head, right? He called it simple and sincere. And I think that is what is lacking in some of the modern productions, right? I mean, I'm not naming names, but some of the Hollywood stuff is just so twisted, and I won't even call it sophisticated. I mean, it requires so much of paying attention to and stuff, right? I mean, I think people need some sort of a correction on that front. And that's why I think even the Marvel movies are popular, right? I mean, if you look at Hollywood releases for this year itself, I mean, I think 7 or 8 of the most awaited releases are all either Disney movies or the Marvel types, right? So yeah, I mean, fantastic. And I was seeing scenes of people chanting Jai Jai Balaya on on Instagram, right? A couple of clips went viral. So I'm just waiting for people to discover some of the other southern movie stars as well, right? I mean, that should be fun. All right, folks, we're at the end of the Bharatvaarta Weekly for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying with us up until now. We have a couple of very entertaining, positive episodes coming up. We have our old friend Ashish Chandorkar has written a book called Braving a Viral Storm, along with Suraj Sudhir, and they document India's COVID-19 vaccine story. And yeah, I mean, it was a fascinating read, I should say. Very, very thoroughly researched, and also, more importantly, I think eminently readable as well, especially for me. It's just leaves you with a sense of gratitude towards all of the people who kept us safe, and sort of also instills that pride in you for the way India has been able to manage the last 2 or 3 years in perhaps the most difficult circumstances in recent times. So I'm really looking forward, as I'm sure you will too. With that, we'll see you next week on another episode of the Bharatvaarta Weekly. Do keep coming back to our channel. There's a lot more interesting content coming up. And if you like our content, don't forget to rate and review us, share it with your friends and family. So, from Abhishek, Neerav, and myself, thank you again for joining us. Stay safe, take care, and Jai Hind.